$1,000. What can you do with $1,000 that actually brings you significant return, significant dividends? So $1,000 will pay you as a homeowner big dividends.
For $1,000,
Yeah.
I could fly to Hawaii.
You
I
could.
couldn't stay there, but I could fly there.
Maybe. One person. I can't go with you. So that might be a blessing in disguise. So $1,000 invested in your home could pay you significant dividends. So it isn't about a trip to Hawaii. That may pay you significant dividends when it comes to memories and experience. And we're talking about real estate because this is the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. I'm Yetta Decker.
And I'm Ken Decker.
And we've had the privilege of, for almost 3 decades, helping buyers and sellers navigate, and investors navigate the terrain of buying homes, selling homes, and investing in real estate. And so out of that, we've learned, one of the things we've learned is what you can do with $1,000 that will actually give you a great return. So now some of these projects, we're going to probably talk about approximately 7.
Lucky 7.
Lucky 7.
Don't go to the casino with your $1,000. That will not pay big dividends.
Well, of course not.
Probably not.
Probably not. So this is related to your house. So we're going to attempt to keep Ken on track. And I know you'll stay on track with me.
On the inside track on real estate.
Yeah, that's right. It's brilliant. And so today you're going to learn what are some ways that you can spend $1,000 or less. So there'll be 7 different things. If you choose to do them all, it could cost you $7,000 or thereabouts. And yet you won't necessarily be requiring to do them all because maybe you've already done some of them. So these are simple things you can do in your Ottawa and area home. You could do most of them yourself. You can hire out a contractor for some of it. Most of these things are reasonably simple. And if you're not handy at all, and you're thinking, I don't do any of this stuff, increase the cost a little bit maybe, and have somebody else do it. And we've got great people that we have worked with lots and lots of times that can be your, I'm going to say handyman, but it's so much more than that. It's a professional that helps you do little things around your house to increase its value.
Yeah.
So
I got a question.
Okay.
So if I've got $1,000 budget,
Right.
and I do one of these items myself,
Right.
and I save a little bit of money, like I spend less than my $1,000,
Right.
can I go to Dairy Queen with it?
If you're Ken Decker, if he's Ken Decker, the answer is please not.
Please not.
Right. Right. Because then he has to buy new clothes when he goes often enough. And then that's really, so he's really invested a lot more than $1,000. So we're going to say, please no. What I would recommend instead is if you're able to do these projects for less, then maybe take on 2 or 3 of them. And maybe you can even accomplish 2 or 3 or 4 of these all for a single $1,000.
I doubt it.
I don't.
Okay,
I think it's quite possible. So number 1, which is caulking. I mean, how much is a tube of caulking?
Did you say talking?
No, that's what we do.
Oh, caulking.
Caulking.
Yes. The stuff that comes out of that tube when you squeeze the handle,
Yeah.
that stuff's dangerous.
Depending on whose hands the caulking gun is
It gets
in.
everywhere.
It can get everywhere. So this is something where if you're not really equipped to do a great smooth job of caulking, what you don't want is that bumpy ridge all along the outside or inside of your window and it's like got twice as much caulking.
Yes. You don't want it 2
needed.
inches wide either.
You don't. So you want a nice, solid, thin bead. And there is a little trick. If you have a little bit too much, you can put Sunlight soap on your finger.
You can.
And smooth it out.
You know what else
unless
works?
there's too much.
You know what else works?
Yeah.
Saliva.
Oh, well, that's gross.
Yeah,
That's like cleaning. No.
So I put my finger in my mouth
Oh.
and then I rub it down and it works great. The problem is I run out of fingers because to put it back in your mouth after you've used it is nasty because that stuff tastes bad.
Right.
It gets
So-
stuck to your teeth.
Right. So back to my suggestion. Sunlight soap on your finger. And then you don't have to put it in your mouth at all.
That's probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea. So caulking inside and out. So start outside. Clearly, it's January 5th. You probably don't want to do it today.
No.
However, do it
Outside
in
in the
April,
spring.
when it's April, May, when it's a lot warmer out. because caulking also works better at certain temperatures. You don't want it too hot and you don't want it too cold because you don't want it to dry too quick and you don't want it not to dry and all that sort of stuff. You don't want it to freeze.
You're like a caulking expert on this. So why do we want to do it on the inside?
Well, because it also looks nice, for one. Aesthetically, it looks like your house is cared for. So it actually sends a message to buyers or visitors if they're critical thinkers and critical, and looking at your house.
Everybody's critical to a point.
Yes, they are. So it aesthetically is very pleasing on the inside. And also, depending on where the caulking is missing, it may mean that you're letting more cold air or hot air escape into the house. So you haven't sealed your house as well. So that's both outside for the sealing aspect and aesthetically both. It just looks so much nicer when everything is tight.
Yeah, I found that even sometimes people will do their own trim job, after they've put down flooring, they put new trim in, and they fail to caulk it. And so what happens is you paint it one color and the wall's another color, but then there's a gap.
Yeah.
That little crack. And it's amazing. And also your seams are never perfect. And even if they are perfect, usually the trim shrinks or expands, so it ends up not being perfect. But the caulking fills that gap, makes it look like a good professional job, and it also stretches. So as it stretches and contracts, so as...
The right type of caulking.
Yeah.
Definitely buy the right type of caulking.
Yeah, don't buy the cheap stuff.
No, buy the expensive caulking. There is a great tip on caulking. Buy the expensive stuff.
We're talking like a couple dollars difference in a tube of caulking.
Yeah.
And the worst part with caulking is the job of doing it.
Right.
So buy yourself a good caulking gun as well. The difference between a $12 caulking gun and a $29 caulking gun is significant in the ease of use and the smoothness that it applies the caulking because the pressure remains consistent. You can even get electric ones. I think it's a little crazy to get an electric caulking gun.
Why?
Well, I just never had one, so I think it's extravagant.
See, there you go. So just because Ken Decker has never had an electric caulking gun, you shouldn't have one either.
Well, maybe you could buy one because with a $1,000 budget, that caulking's probably not going to cost you $1,000 unless you hire someone to do it.
Right. And so you want to go around windows, doors, trim, backsplashes, tubs, anywhere and use the right type of caulking for the right place.
Yes, bathrooms is clear silicone.
Yes.
Unless it's a white tub with white trim, then you can use a white silicone caulking.
Yes.
And anything you put where you want to ever paint it, ever paint it, make sure it's paintable.
Caulking.
Yes, because the silicone, the paint just beads right off of it. It's pretty amazing stuff.
It is. So that's an inexpensive thing if you're going to do it yourself. And yet, depending on how long it's been since you've done any caulking, or especially on the outside, it could require many tubes. And while you're doing it, you might as well be looking for anywhere that there is gaps or holes with siding or the wrong vent that's there. So when you're doing a caulking job, the amazing thing is you can see so many other things because the things that are next to where the caulking needs to be fixed may be something else you can fix. So that's a little bit of a bonus. Pay attention as you're doing it to the details because it will pay you way more return than it's going to cost you to do.
And if your outside crack is more than a 1/4 inch, around a garage door, trim, or that kind of thing, then you may have to make some adjustments in the actual trim to pull it in tighter, or you may have to backfill it with something before you put caulking because it's very hard to fill a 1/2 inch gap with caulking.
It's not meant to.
I know.
Okay.
I've done it.
And it didn't work.
So you talked about caulking a backsplash. That's the same thing you would do with a clear silicone because you don't want it to show up. And backsplash is number 2.
It is because
it's a good segue.
It's
That's
a beautiful
good word.
segue.
Segue. I like that.
So backsplashes, seems to be out of date really quickly. What was popular 10 years ago, or even what I thought was beautiful 10 years ago, or maybe what you thought was beautiful 10 years ago, and I know this is true for buyers, what they thought was beautiful 10 years ago, they think is hideous today. So what you want to do is look at the backsplash and not replace them every 6 or 7 months, but certainly replace them when they start to discolor, when the caulking or the grout between them doesn't get clean anymore, when it gets, stained by spaghetti sauce and that sort of stuff, and when the tile or backsplash itself is just done. Yeah.
And maybe you don't have a backsplash.
Right.
So adding a backsplash is easier and simpler, because tearing a backsplash off is a pain. You damage the drywall a lot.
Yeah.
At least I do when I'm taking it off.
Yes, you do.
The good news is you can fix it up just roughly, because you're going to have a backsplash covering it again.
Right.
Adding under counter lighting in the kitchen, or replacing countertops that have burns, or they're separating in the seam, or they've gotten some rot because you had some leakage around the taps. Anything like that, anything that's damaged, replace that. Now, for under $1,000, you can usually do your countertops, as long as you're not moving to granite. If you're moving to granite, you're going to be
quartz
or something hard finish.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be in the neighborhood of, depending on the size of your counters, $3,000 to $8,000 for granite if you wanted to go that route.
Right.
But for under $1,000, you can do a new laminate,
depending on how big your kitchen
countertop.
is.
Yep.
This is general, and so each person will vary. This is not go shopping and say to the store, "Hey, she said that it was be under $1,000."
Well, you could try it.
You could. It probably won't work. Hey, yet the Decker team said, no, probably not going to work. So for the most part, if you're not going too extravagant, more of a base grade counter, and you get some that look really nice, like granite, without the expense. And if you're going to stay in your home for a period of time, and depending on the value of your home, it may be worth investing more than $1,000 in doing granite or one of the hard finishes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this one usually will cost you, number 3, will often cost you less than $1,000. So where some of these ideas might, budget over a little bit, the $1,000, others will be underneath. So just updating your hardware on cabinet doors in the kitchen or the bathroom will greatly increase the appeal. And when you're doing it, you might as well be paying attention at the same time. Sometimes on countertop or on counters or cabinets in particular, you get kind of like that greasy finger film.
Worn.
Or worn. Touching that up, getting a little bit of varnish and refinishing, a bit of a project, and yet sometimes refinishing or repainting those cabinet doors. You can do that for well under $1,000 and replace the hardware and make it look 15, 20 years newer.
Yes, you can. Now, you can change hardware relatively inexpensively. They have some of those kits, where you get 10 pieces in them for $60 or something. So you're going to end up being in the neighborhood of a couple hundred. Now, if you want a much larger pull, large pulls are now in style. So they call them pulls rather than handles. I'm not quite sure why, but that's what they're called. And you can get them that are 6, 10, 12 inches long. The difficulty is if you're placing on an existing cabinet that had a handle before, the hole may not line up.
So you want to pay attention.
So measure your holes, how far they are apart. If you just had a knob, that means you only got one hole. That's perfect, because then you can buy whatever length you want, because you drill the second hole to mount your handle. So you can spend over $1,000 if you want on kitchen pulls.
You don't need to, though.
You don't need to. Just going to something modern in a brushed pewter or chrome or that kind of, or even a shiny chrome, something modern. So if you're looking at your kitchen cabinet right now and it's an oak cabinet with the little brass with the oak piece in the middle, the little round oak piece in the middle, that's probably one you might want to upgrade.
Absolutely. In a heartbeat. It will bring you a return. And depending on how well the finish is looking or how worn the finish is looking, you can use a laminate cabinet paint and actually refinish the cabinets so they no longer look like wood. Because white, we did a thing.
Hate the paint over oak.
Oh, but so bad. Too bad, so sad. People love it. And so it may be sad for you, and that's unfortunate. And it makes a difference often. An older style oak cabinet can actually cost you money in terms of the value of your home. Now, if you're living in your home for years to come and you love it, just like Ken does, he can go ahead and leave his oak as long as it's not in a room that I have to spend too much time in. And otherwise, you can paint it
You're
a white.
opinionated, aren't you? I'm sure that someone's listening right now
Yeah.
who loves oak.
Absolutely.
cabinets.
And I love it in their home,
Yes,
just not in mine.
with chrome poles
There you go.
or black. So number 4. Now this one is interesting because you can do quite a bit in a bathroom. If you've got a dated bathroom or a bathroom that's getting worn, for $1,000 you can do quite a bit in a bathroom, especially if you're doing some of it yourself. You can change out a toilet, put in maybe a low flush if it's a big flush. That's going to save you money on water in the future. We talked about changing the mirror in one of our shows. Bathroom shower and faucet, you could change those up. You can change the sink. You know what? I go into a lot of homes and the porcelain sink is chipped and it's starting to rust because it's a steel sink. They're cheap.
Yeah, they are.
Buy a new one. Get over it. They're inexpensive. You can buy a nice porcelain one for, I think they're about $100, $150. Put a new faucet on, a new toilet, new shower head, and suddenly you feel really refreshed going into your new, not totally remodeled, but refreshed bathroom.
Yeah, because you can refresh it for under $1,000. You certainly can't replace everything. You might spend $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, depending on the size of the bathroom and the quality of fixture and
That'd be a total gut.
Yeah, if you're going to completely renovate it. Yeah. And yet that, depending on the price range your home is in and where it is and how soon you're going to sell. I mean, if you want to do a major project like that because it serves you and you like it, fantastic. You're not likely to get even 100% return on your investment if you're doing a major gut, unless it's really problematic. Now, like there's the odds. So if you're wondering, what about me? Like, what about my specific scenario? This is great general information. What about me? Call me and I will walk you through it. Even if you aren't ready to have an in-house consultation, you can send me a few pictures. We can look at that because I can tell you through the eyes of a buyer what is going to give you a return now and what is likely to service you for quite a few years to come. Because sometimes you're thinking, I don't want to move for another 5 or another 10. So how can I make decisions today? Well, actually you can, because we can see where things are trending.
Yep. And maybe it's, you do some of that and then you go, it's not quite there yet. Maybe it needs a new shower curtain, maybe new shower doors. Maybe it's one of those little area mats in front of the sink, warm it up. Maybe it's some new accessories or a new light. You can do a lot in a bathroom for $1,000. You really can.
Or a tub liner.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. If you've got one of those old tubs and it's scratched and it doesn't feel clean, even though you clean it and you go, oh, it still looks like I wouldn't want to have company over to have a shower in it. Tub liner is a great way. And you can also do a wall liner. If you don't want to get into re-ceramicing or anything, they can put wall liner in, tub insert. I'm not sure if you'll be under $1,000. You'll probably be close.
Yeah.
And you'll have a new tub.
Perfect. Number 5, light fixtures. It is amazing what you can get and how many you can replace for under $1,000. Now, if you're going to one of the exclusive lighting shops, you can spend more than $1,000 on one fixture.
We did that.
I know. You can spend a lot of money on one fixture. And yet, if you're thinking of doing it for selling purposes, it's not necessary. A good quality, reasonably attractive looking light fixture replaced from something that's maybe yellow glass and older brass, or something that's just a really inexpensive, the Hollywood lights. We talked about that on a previous show. Any of those kinds of things that are just not happy today. They were happy at one point, they're just not anymore.
Or they were a $5 fixture when the builder put them in. Right.
Then you would want to replace them. Adding some pot lights can totally change a room, and you can add some for $1,000. You maybe can't do an entire house of them. You can't. However, you can certainly pick your most welcoming areas. When you first come into a house, in a family room, in a great room, in a lower level rec room, it just totally changes, especially if you've got lower ceilings and a lower level. Pot lights can be an amazing solution because you don't have anything sticking down into the room and you're not losing ceiling height from light fixtures. And so mounting them in the ceiling can be fantastic.
Yep, and you can actually get them. I've installed them in an existing ceiling without damaging the ceiling. You figure out where the joists are, you cut your holes, and then you've got holes. You can drill the hole through the floor joist, and then that'll get you 2 joists apart, and you can run a wire through there. And the beauty with the new LED pot lights is you can buy ones that are basically the thickness of the drywall. So even if there's something above it, it doesn't interfere with it, which is awesome.
So lots of options. And then number 6 is, probably starting to sound like a broken record around this one because it shows up in almost every show, regardless of what we're featuring or what we're talking about. And that is a 5-letter word.
It's a good word.
It is. Paint. Something so simple as paint. Paint is amazing. Freshening up the trim, freshening up any rooms that are high traffic.
Oh, can I put a caveat on that?
Yes.
If you don't know how to paint,
Oh, please don't.
don't do it. 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 Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I've gone into homes. They've, the rollers hit the ceiling. There's paint on the ceiling. The trim no longer has a straight edge. It's all over the place. It's worth it to pay someone to paint if you're not super skilled at it and you know who you are.
You're me. I am certainly one of those. I won't paint. I'll paint on a canvas. I will not paint on a wall or on trim or on a door, which is great because then I don't have to do it. It's awesome. So know whether your ability to paint.
So we can't paint a house for $1,000.
No. You can touch up the high traffic areas, get rid of any old style borders that are in the house.
Ooh, those are nice.
They were beautiful.
Yes.
So if you still have those, if it's an older style wallpaper, there is some trendy wallpaper that's used in the right space that works really well.
Yeah, they're doing accents with it.
Yeah,
And
accent wall or in a little bathroom.
High quality
Yeah.
vinyl paper.
So if you have any old style wall covering, that is a huge, especially if it's near the beginning of seeing the house, like in the front.
Well,
third.
we're not even talking about selling your house.
No.
It helps if you're selling your house. But this is really to have you fall in love with your house again.
All over again.
Valentine's is coming up in a month.
Yeah.
So you could do a couple of these projects with your home and fall in love with your home all over again.
Oh, how sweet. That is sweet. And maybe it'll actually cause your spouse to fall in love with you a little bit more because you did the work as a surprise.
Yes, especially
Hey,
if you
Ken.
fix up the master bedroom.
Right. That's a good thing. So number 7 is replace your front door. And maybe it doesn't require a full replace. Maybe you already have a thermal door or a insulated door
That's undented,
that's not too dented. Yep.
not peeling.
Not peeling. And replace just the glass. There's companies that will come and replace just the glass, or you can even pick them up at the hardware stores, the home renovation stores, and with a little, it's Sawzall, right?
No.
No, what do you use? Because we've done it.
Different tool.
A different tool. Okay, so clearly I'm not the handy woman.
Jigsaw and a drill.
Jigsaw, that's the one.
Jigsaw and a drill.
Jigsaw and a
Actually,
drill.
I had a solid steel door with no window in it. I bought a lovely glass. I think it was Home Depot. It was square, so it's easier to cut out because there's already the indent on the colonial door. So you just follow that. So ran a bead of masking tape along where I wanted to cut, drilled a hole, put a jigsaw in with a long blade so it cut through both sides at the same time, and followed the masking tape edge and dropped in a new window. And I did it in the intermission during a hockey game.
You're just so amazing.
just
Isn't he
saying.
amazing?
I'm just
He's
saying,
amazing.
it doesn't have to take all weekend.
So
You can still watch your hockey game and make your wife happy.
maybe you make yourself happy too by having more light in the house, because that's another show around just getting more natural light.
Yes.
You want to watch that one too. So Absolutely not an expensive proposition. You will still then need to paint the door. Maybe it just needs a good coat of paint anyway. So you could easily do that, even front and back, for under $1,000. Pretty cool.
That's phenomenal.
And here's the bonus.
I don't like this bonus.
This is an amazing bonus.
This bonus is a dig against Ken.
Yes.
See? She planted it right in the show. I like starting projects, not so much finishing projects.
So
There, I said it.
thank you. It's awesome. Because I didn't even tell you you had to own that.
Well, come on, tell us what the bonus is.
Complete the details on previous projects. There is nothing that will give you more dividends. This is like the number one. We didn't give you these in order necessarily. This is the bonus. And this is what you were waiting for because this is thebomb.com. You definitely want to take all those little projects where there was just, you know, you overcut the stone when you're installing the light fixture, so there just needs to be a little bit of caulking there, or you're installing shelves for DVDs and maybe the last coat of paint or the last coat of mud didn't get put on, or maybe it's just a little bit of trim caulking, or maybe it's a missing piece of trim. You're missing a piece of trim, so you didn't go to the store to get that last little piece, or maybe it's a threshold between two rooms where you installed hardwood and carpet and they're abutting
That one's
each other.
not for me. All the other ones were for me, by the way, but that last one was not for me.
Well-
Might be for you.
Well, if the shoe fits, I'm thinking.
I've been wearing those shoes for a long time.
So anyway, completing all those little projects would totally give you major dividends. And most of the time, there's virtually no cost associated to them. This one you can usually even say for under $100. Never mind under 1,000. Because the material's all sitting there. It's just a little bit of time. And if you're hiring a handyman to finish them all up because you're sick and tired of waiting for them to be done, probably spend $1,000.
That's probably a good idea.
I know, I'm thinking it might be. So if you've got more questions, if you've got comments, because I want this to be a dialogue, not a monologue, share with us what things you've done for under $1,000 that paid huge dividends in your home, whether you're continuing to live in it for another 5, 10, or 15 years, or whether it's time to make a move. If it's time to make a move, give us a call and we'll love to chat with you about that. And if you're just saying, which ones do I do? Call us too. We will walk you through that. 613-860-4663.
So, 1 through 7 plus a bonus, that's 8. 8 great ideas to pay big dividends in your home, and you could probably even do them in a weekend.
What you wanna